Hi, thank you for clicking on the video and I hope everyone is doing really well. Something I hear a lot at my job and something that I think to myself and sometimes I actually say it out loud, and it's regular that I think these things and say these things, and that is I don't feel skinny or I feel fat. I've come to realize that this is my brain's way of trying to express an unknown emotion. Recently, I've actually stopped myself and thought to myself, by saying I feel fat, what am I really trying to say? What am I really feeling? If you've ever struggled with an eating disorder or have had body image issues, you too have probably thought to yourself one or both of those statements. By continuously having those thoughts, and not only having those thoughts, believing those thoughts, we are creating psychological patterns. These patterns can develop into an eating disorder and feed the disorder the more we continue to believe the statement of, I feel fat. Recovering from an eating disorder means that we are taking those psychological patterns and breaking them down one by one. We're trying to get at the core and the root of the problem. Because at the end of the day, an eating disorder is just a mask. It's a coping mechanism used to express overwhelming emotions otherwise unable to express well. Growing up, I was told to hide my feelings. I wasn't allowed to cry. Crying was a physical sign of weakness, and we were people who were not weak. We were not weak people. So over time, I got really good at hiding my feelings. I would just push them down deep inside of me and keep them there. But the problem with that is eventually they're going to bubble up and they're going to find some way of expressing themselves. Basically, eventually, you're going to explode. So what does all that have to do with feeling fat? First thing we need to ask ourselves is, what does feeling fat feel like? Problem with that question is there is no answer. Why? Because fat or skinny are not feelings. You either are skinny or you are fat. You cannot feel those things. They are states of being, not emotions. After realizing that you can't feel fat or you can't feel skinny, you have to ask yourself, if not fat or if not skinny, what is it that I actually am feeling? What real emotions am I experiencing? Recently, I've come to realize that in those moments where I think to myself, oh, I feel fat or I feel skinny, it has to do with what I see in the mirror. If my reflection triggers a negative reaction emotionally inside of me, suddenly I think to myself, oh, I feel fat. Or vice versa. If I look in the mirror and suddenly I feel good, I think to myself, oh, I feel skinny. When in reality, just because I feel a negative emotion based off my reflection does not mean that suddenly, magically, I have become fat. Rather, I am feeling unhappy by my reflection. It's important that we learn to analyze and learn to recognize all emotions, because as humans, we are privileged enough to be able to experience a vast range of emotion. We need to learn to enjoy the positive emotions and to learn how to express negative emotion in a healthy way. We should never feel like we need to stifle or hide away negative emotion. I don't think the average person is told that unhappiness or sadness or depression is bad emotions. I think we just all of a sudden believe it because no one wants to be sad. But I think in order to have a balanced life, you have to allow yourself to experience both sides of the emotional scale, whether it's happiness or it's sadness. We have to allow ourselves to feel all emotion. No emotion is better than another emotion. Because of the way I was raised, I developed the belief that being fat was bad. Not only that, but I was taught that fat people were bad people because they allowed themselves to get to that level of obesity. Like they didn't care about themselves, and that made them in some way bad people. Fat people were presented to me as lazy, undisciplined, out of control, bad, gross, sad, and not normal. They were all the things that I was taught I shouldn't be. Add on to that the emphasis that I wasn't supposed to show negative emotion, and suddenly the lines blurred between the things I shouldn't be and the things I shouldn't feel. So my brain started to associate being fat with being bad, and being bad with feeling bad or feeling sad about yourself, and that turned into feeling fat. So when I feel fat, what I'm really feeling is all the things that that one simple word, fat, represents. I'm feeling out of control. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I feel undisciplined. I feel lazy, unproductive, depressed, sick, gross. I feel lost. Eating disorders want to distort our whole lives, from our social life to our very reflection to our very emotions. To recover, we have to break through the distortion and use logic to counter the chaos the disorder has created. We need to become more self-aware of our true emotions. Our first reaction is to think, I feel fat, therefore I am fat. We need to catch ourselves each time and think to ourselves, I know I am not fat, so what is it that I'm feeling? Just because I think I'm feeling something doesn't mean I am that thing. Once you can realize the actual emotion that you're feeling, you can work through that emotion. Because the best way to overcome a problem is to address it for what it is. You can't fix a problem if you don't know the problem by name. We need to stop saying we feel fat. We either are fat or we're not. We do not fluctuate body shape from second to second. We need to understand our emotions and what are the causes. We need to allow ourselves to feel all emotions, both negative and positive. We need to see that feeling and expressing negative emotion is freeing. We need to stop hiding and believing that negative emotions are bad or less important or less relevant than positive feelings. Like my childhood, where I was told to only express good feelings and to hide any negative feelings I was having. Eating disorders too want us to hide our emotions, so that we learn to distrust our own feelings and instincts, and we will become reliant on the eating disorder. The more we become aware and expressive of our emotions, all of our emotions, the less the eating disorder can express itself. We are only human after all. We can't be happy all the time. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated or overwhelmed or outside of ourselves or overcome by feelings. It's good to feel, and all emotions are valid. But we need to stop confusing states of being as emotion. Just because I feel something doesn't mean I magically become that thing. All right, that's the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. For more videos about eating disorders and diets and nutrition, please subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment. All criticisms are welcome, and I will see you next time. Bye.